Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description.
And then came the nine-tailed demon fox, and every swipe of its tail shattered mountains and raised tsunamis. And brave shinobi fought it, until one of them imprisoned it at the cost of his own life. The god of death, the beginning. For what? Oh God, why did you leave me? Forgive me, but his time is up. Although why am I telling you this? You can't hear me anyway. It's probably a habit, the habit of a soul guide. Now, everything will go back to normal, curses directed at me, but I'm already cursed. Damn you, death. Day after day, year after year, century after century. Every day, I hear these words. Maybe it's true. Over the thousands of years, I've already forgotten. Was I ever human? Did I ever truly live? I'm sorry. I want to live. I didn't have time to do so much. Please bring me back. The cries of the soul. If you all knew how much I wanted this, how much I wanted. Just a few seconds. No one is as alone as death. No one experiences more pain than death. Souls can be reborn, get rid of pain, but death never. This strange voice, it calls me, so sad, it is waiting for my help, offering its soul in exchange. It does not blame death, it only regrets that it cannot be near its soulmate, will not see how its son grows, how its beloved village prospers, for which it condemns itself to eternity. Another voice, this time it is a woman. Their souls are connected by a strong thread. She will also die soon. She is ready for eternal torment and pain, if only he were near. No one experiences greater pain than death. And now, their souls have become a part of me, souls doomed to eternal suffering. Rarely does anyone dare to do this, to become one with me. A lonely cry. The cry of a child forever abandoned by parents who left behind a heavy burden full of pain, hatred, and loneliness. Is this the end? Yes, asked a tall, blond man with sad blue eyes. I nodded. No one can remain themselves for long after making a deal with the god of death. Soon, you will become a part of me, and how long you last depends only on you. But no one has yet been able to cope with this pain and not fall into madness. If I manage, will I be able to watch my son? Yes, you will become part of me. The god of death is omniscient. He sees everything that happens in this world. And now, your time is up. Prepare yourself. Minato. Wait. Yes. I was right. She'll do anything to be near him. Please don't separate us. I want to be with my husband forever. Are you ready to feel the pain of the whole world forever? All the hatred, all the malice of dying people? Are you ready to fall into madness? Yes. Just to be near him. Well, welcome to death. It's so sad. I hate wars. I hate it when people kill each other. I hate death. I hate myself. God of death, the end. Naruto, 3 years. Mom! Look what I drew. There's a sun, there's a cloud, there are some trees here. A 4-year-old boy ran up to his beloved mother, spoke quickly, and began waving a piece of paper in front of her face, pointing at it with his finger. His hands, of course, were stained with paint, as it hadn't had time to dry. The mother looked at her child with a smile full of love and care. Mom! Look what I drew, said a small blond boy with beautiful sky blue eyes, waving a sheet of paper. There was no one in front of him, but there was a cheerful smile on his face, and it was growing wider with each passing second. And you, Dad, do you like it? The little boy asked again, and a little later he began running happily around the playground waving a piece of paper. Noticing little Naruto, the children's parents acted strangely, taking their children by the hand and walking away from him. But he didn't care. He was happy. Naruto is 6 years old. My mother has beautiful long red hair, the color of her clan. Once one of the most powerful clans in the world. They were the best at sealing techniques. I love her very much, as I do my dad, whom I look a lot like. I have the same yellow hair and blue eyes as him, and my dad is the most powerful shinobi in the world. And I want to become a ninja like him." Naruto finished his story. All the children looked at the cheerful blonde, but there was no spark of interest in their eyes when the other children talked about their families. This was a demon talking. How could a demon have parents? At least, they had never seen any. "That's not true." One of the listeners jumped up, pointed a finger at Naruto, and continued. "You don't have any parents. My mother told me you're bad because you don't have parents, and you're a demon." He finished, and the other children jumped up and started pointing at him and teasing him. "Liar! Demon! We don't want to talk to you. Liars, like you don't become shinobi." The children shouted in unison, their cries drowning out each other, creating a din. "Your dad died," Naruto said, surprising everyone, pointing at the boy who had started teasing him first. His eyes were filled with sadness. "Shut up! My dad is the strongest shinobi in the world. He'll never die. He'll come home from a mission today, and we'll go get ice cream together." "Liar! Liar! Liar!" the boy screamed, tears streaming down his cheeks. Naruto's eyes were just as sad. "I'm sorry, but he won't come." The children were staring at his sky-blue eyes, full of pain and longing, as if they didn't belong in our world. Goosebumps ran down their spines. This strange Naruto. All the children looked at Naruto reproachfully. Not only was he a liar, but he'd also hurt their friend. The teacher's gaze was no different from his students'. It was because of this child that his parents had died, and he hated him. Hatred. He doesn't understand that Naruto is innocent, that it was all a setup. Next to me, the silhouette of the shinobi who came to look at his son, at his eyes, one last time, slowly fades. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "I demand that his mind be examined. There's no way he could have known about Isami's death, even we knew nothing. Hiruzen, you mustn't interfere. We are obligated to ensure the safety of the village." An elderly shinobi with a bandaged right eye stood in the Hokage's office, demanding an examination of the village's Jinchuriki. This was none other than Shimura Danzo, head of the Rudanbu, the man who protects the peace of the village hidden in the leaves, but who could protect the village from his influence. Beside him stood Hamura and Koharu, the village elders. "My friend, why such desperate measures? We can just talk to Naruto. If we find the right approach, he'll tell us everything," the Sandaime said calmly, as if nothing had happened. "Raven!" the Hokage shouted, leaning back in his chair to look at the man in the raven mask who had just appeared before them. "Ask them to bring Naruto, but be careful, don't scare the boy." Danzo merely chuckled at Hiruzen's words and looked at the elders in turn. Their eyes met, and they understood. Soon, someone knocked on the office door, and a few seconds later, a tall, slender blonde entered. Naruto followed, smiling, but his smile was slightly sad. "Naruto, take a seat," the Hokage said, gesturing to an empty seat, and, glancing at his secretary, told her she could go. Danzo grinned again. It seemed Sarutobi had changed his secretary again. He remembered the last time. It was a brunette with a beautiful voice. Naruto, tell us what happened today. We're very interested." Naruto. "This is such a strange feeling. I never noticed it before. We were supposed to talk about our families today. I started telling you how much I love my mom and dad, and how great they are." Everyone in the room looked at Naruto in surprise, while Danzo and the elders looked a little worried. "Naruto, stop, don't. You can't hear me. Please tell me more about your parents," the Hokage asked. Naruto's eyes brightened a little. The Hokage himself was asking him to tell him about his parents. He would prove to everyone that his parents were real. "He's looking at me. Naruto, what do you see? Death or—" "My mother has beautiful long red hair, the color of the Uzumaki clan, renowned for its mastery of sealing techniques. I bear my mother's name, and I'm very proud of it. My father, the most powerful shinobi in the world, looks a lot like him, with blue eyes and yellow hair." I love my parents very much." The little blonde finished proudly, looking around. The elders and Danzo's concern turned to rage. They glared at Sarutobi, who merely smirked. Who told him he's the fourth son? Who's the traitor? Danzo looked like he was about to burst into flames, with Hamura and Koharu standing nearby, their expressions matching his own. My dad is the fourth Hokage? The village hero? But he died defeating the fox, didn't he? Naruto's gaze darted around the room, to the Hokage, to the elders, to Danzo, who had realized his mistake. He looks at me. He wants to say something. Naruto. Mom, is it true that you and Dad are gone? The boy's face was filled with despair. How could it be that the parents he sees every day, the ones who are always there, who take care of him, tell him they love him, teach him, aren't real? I can't understand what's happening to me. Naruto, we will always be with you. Dad, and I love you more than anything in the world. Even though we're dead in reality, our souls will never leave you. Did I say that? But how? I didn't mean to say that. Minato. Kushina, you managed, right? Not to dissolve in this madness and retain your personalities. Naruto, your parents died 6 years ago. Having sacrificed your lives to protect the village, you should be proud of them. The third Hokage tried to reassure little Uzumaki, but he wouldn't listen. Naruto looked at the person closest to him, the one no one else had ever seen. I am Uzumaki Naruto. I am 6 years old, and now I know the truth about my parents. My parents were always there for me when I cried, when I laughed, when I was in pain, although I almost always hurt. It's not my body that hurts. There's not a single wound on it. It's my soul that hurts. And it always was that way until I saw her. Only a few days had passed since that conversation. Naruto sat on Hokage Rock, his arms wrapped around his knees, crying. He wore black shorts and a matching t-shirt with a strange white design on the chest. Somewhere nearby, Rudambu, assigned by Danzo to ensure the village's weapons didn't cause any harm, were watching. It seemed strange that Danzo was afraid. Yes, he'd been stupid. He'd immediately admitted it. No matter how much he denied it to Hiruzen and the elders, he'd privately admitted his guilt. Shimura might have looked like the most cold-blooded shinobi, but somewhere inside, beyond those walls, some 30 kilometers wide, his conscience lay in a deep coma, struggling to come to its senses. His desire for power loomed nearby, and whenever he tried to escape, it smashed her head with a large frying pan, sending her on another journey to nirvana. Danzo was trying to solve the problem caused by his temper? Erase the boy's memory, but who needs a weapon? A vegetable. A Jinchuriki is a tomato. The head of Root imagined this strange image. A nine-tailed demon fox a la tomato, glaring with hateful eyes, surrounded by a sea of ketchup. A smirk, no! A smile appeared on his face. Some shinobi, unwitting witnesses to this spectacle, rushed to the Hokage. Well, Danzo can't just smile. He must be up to something. Running to the residence, they told everyone they met what they'd seen, who in turn told their acquaintances, and so on, until the information returned to the original source, and he was horrified at how he could have missed so many important things. Yes, they'd thrown the Hokage a lot of work, there's no denying it. Not only had they told the fox bearer about his parents, which was absolutely forbidden, at least not right now. On top of that, perplexed shinobi were coming almost every minute, telling stories about Shimura's sly smile. Everyone interpreted that smile differently, and soon the story had become so detailed that Hiruzen would have died laughing if his assistant hadn't announced that they weren't allowed to see him, and that they should write a report on matters concerning Danzo. Meanwhile, Hiruzen was pondering what to do with the 4 Senchi's heir. After much deliberation, he decided he needed to find him a guardian, just in case. Then his gaze fell on a very interesting book. A masterpiece by a student. It was decided. Tomorrow the secretary would be a redhead. I don't know why, but I feel sad. Over the years, I've come to realize myself again. I am death. the entity everyone hates. I still can't understand what happened. My mind is in a fog. But I feel there is someone I want to protect. Blue eyes, yellow hair, small arms, legs, and a soul so dear. The anchors will soon sink unless the chains that bind them to the ship are strengthened. It started raining, and it seemed like an eternity for Naruto to sit on the monument to the former Hokage. All day, Uzumaki thought about himself, his parents, the village, the elders, and, of course, about the strange things he sees but doesn't consider strange. Raindrops fell on Naruto's head, trickled down his cheeks, and dripped from the tips of his hair. His t-shirt and shorts were completely soaked. The little Jinchuriki was shivering. He was cold, scared, and in pain. Someone was near him. He could feel it. The stranger stood beside him, gently hugging his shoulders, warm, so familiar. Naruto, you probably won't see your parents again anytime soon. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I have to say this. Time will pass. You'll go to the academy, become a genin, go on missions, make friends. And someday you'll see your parents again. For now, I'm sorry, their chakra in the seal is almost depleted, and if you don't hurry, you'll lose the only chance you have of meeting them in the future. For now, goodbye. I hear. Naruto sat on the Hokage monument, soaking wet, under the Umbu's watchful eye. Sad, lonely. And only one desire kept the fire passed down to him by his parents burning within him. He would do anything to see them just once. I love the rain. You can't see tears in the rain. It must be strange to look at a 6-year-old child sitting alone on a monument. A child with adult eyes and a very sad look. Is it strange or not? The girl standing in front of me. Beautiful black hair, light violet eyes. She is beautiful in her sad beauty. Who are you? But she didn't answer. After looking into my eyes, the girl vanished into thin air. I knew it was just a phantom, an illusion conjured up by my consciousness, but my inner voice screamed at me, she's alive, and I have to find her. A year has passed. Night. A fog was descending upon the village hidden in the foliage. A rare occurrence in these parts, but it does happen. A man in a raven mask stood atop one of the village buildings. It was none other than Uchiha Itachi, receiving his final mission as a Konoha shinobi. Naruto sat, as always, atop the Hokage monument, perched on his father's head. A year had passed since he learned the truth about himself. He, Uzumaki Naruto, was the son of the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, the hero of the village, but no one was allowed to know. Naruto didn't mind the fog, he loved it. It was a pleasant humidity. He often saw it on days like this. Over the past year, this had only happened 6 times. And on those 4 occasions, there had been fog. Naruto knew neither her first name nor her last name, only her image in his memory, the one that so often surfaced in his dreams. Over the course of the year, she had grown a little taller, her hair had grown longer, now falling just below her shoulder blades. One strand covered her left eye, making it invisible. The girl was even sadder than before. With each new encounter, she became clearer, and Naruto blossomed. At our last meeting, I was able to touch her. I was so happy. Her hands were so cold, yet at the same time they emanated such warmth, warming my soul. This time, I would be able to speak to her. The fog was growing thicker, my face was already damp, and I was shivering slightly. I counted the minutes. Just a little more, she would definitely appear. I didn't understand what had happened. But suddenly I felt great pain. Hatred, anger, despair. These feelings floated through my head again and again. It felt like another moment, and it would burst. People swam before my eyes, black hair, eyes. Some of them glowed with the red tamo of the Sharingan, undoubtedly people of the Uchiha clan. I felt my neck and heart ache. I felt sharp blades piercing my body. I felt like I was burning. Some strange black energy was gathering around my stomach, the energy of many lives. The silhouettes of the Uchiha dissolved into the night, causing me more and more pain. My eyes began to burn terribly, as if some unseen force was trying to tear them out. The entire space around me began to dim, drowning in a reddish haze. Some strange noise, the ringing of bells? No. Two long, thin chains jingled before me, seeming to be woven from thin air. Black energy slowly crept along them, being absorbed by them. My head, clutching it, I looked at the blood-red moon. Naruto clutched his head in his hands and looked at the moon. Apart from it, not a single star was in the sky. Only black clouds floated somewhere in the distance. A heartbreaking scream rang out in the night, as if the souls of those who had died that day were screaming. Naruto's body began to be coated in red, poisonous chakra. It foamed and flowed from every pore. His fangs began to grow at an incredible rate, and a bestial grin appeared on his face. His nails lengthened and sharpened, becoming feral. The moon was reflected in his eyes, filled with pain and despair. His eyes began to change, the pupils no longer sky blue, gradually darkening, soon becoming blood red. Not a trace remained of the normal human pupil. Naruto looked at the world through the eyes of a beast. Another scream rang out in the night. This time, it was Naruto's, a cry that sounded vaguely human, but also distinctly animalistic. The beast's eyes stared at the moon, barely perceptible ripples moving across them. The more chakra coated Naruto's body, the more intense the ripples became. Uzumaki inhaled deeply through his nose, a faint smile appearing behind his savage grin. Suddenly, he rose from his seat and ran quickly toward the Uchiha clan's quarters. The dark silhouette was barely recognizable as a human. It seemed like a beast stalking its prey. Silently, Naruto leaped from rooftop to rooftop, approaching his goal. Some kind of barrier stood before him. He clearly saw the strange glow. Extending his hand, Naruto slashed at it with his claws, cutting right through it as if through water. Another moment, and Uzumaki was behind him. As soon as he passed through him, the night was no longer so calm. Screams were heard from all sides. The smell of blood hung in the air. Everything around was soaked in blood, the air, the ground. I could hear people screaming in the distance, and the silhouettes of Uchiha were floating next to me. I'd gotten used to the pain though, and my eyes still burned. But one thought haunted me. I have to stop this. I don't know where it's coming from, but I know I can do it. People are all around, they're suffering. Corpses, a father shielding his daughters with his own body, but it didn't help. A hole in his chest over his heart, and his little daughter's head lies next to him. I can't watch it. For masked men stood against the night sky on one of the buildings. I could smell the blood on their hands. They didn't regret what they'd done, I could feel it. Pain, sadness, loneliness, all these feelings echoed in every cell of my brain. I hate them. I hate murder. I hate it when people suffer. I hate it. Behind me, I saw ghostly tales that weren't there in reality. Each tale pulsed with a strange energy. I listened. Heartbeats, calm, slow sounds. I could feel them. With a dash, I was already at the top of the building. That cold gaze, devoid of emotion, there was no fear, no contempt, nothing in it. The tales behind me thrashed wildly. For shinobi prepared to attack. The tales began to lengthen, biting into the bodies of 4 shinobi. I could tell from their faces that they felt no pain. There were no wounds on their bodies. I looked at them. Something was wrong. Something appeared in their eyes. Interest? I looked closer. Energy pulsed through their bodies, right at the level of their hearts. The tails, rushing towards it, clung to it as if it were their last hope. The shinobi's eyes widened in surprise, death itself dancing in them. A few seconds later, the shinobi's bodies sank and fell lifelessly onto the smooth tiles. And the tails, neatly wrapped around me, held red-black glowing balls. I looked at them with detachment. They seemed something vile, incomprehensible, but at the same time, something sacred. The red chakra above me took the shape of a fox's mouth, and the balls disappeared into its depths. The shroud gradually faded, and the eyes became sky blue again. A small boy lay unconscious on the roof, and next to him were 4 lifeless bodies. Did you hear? The Uchiha clan was completely wiped out overnight, leaving no survivors. They say it was a demon on the rampage. I'm afraid that what happened 7 years ago will happen again. What about our children? They go to the academy with him. We need to isolate him. But the Hokage says it wasn't him. Of course, not a demon. He just wants to calm us down. For our safety, we must get rid of him. All day, the villagers talked about the recent events. About the destruction of the Uchiha clan. How could Konoha's most powerful clan be wiped out in a single night? People were perplexed. Some rumored a demon had been at work. Someone mentioned that he had been found unconscious at the crime scene. They didn't mention his name, they called him by his usual nickname, but everyone had long since gotten used to it. Uzumaki Naruto, demon of the village hidden in the leaves. Naruto woke up with a terrible headache. Wires, white walls, the smell of medicine. His eyes ached terribly, as if they'd been ripped out and then put back in. He tried to get up, but he couldn't. The ropes holding him down were holding him in place. "Hey! Anyone there?" he shouted. The sound of shuffling footsteps could be heard. An elderly woman entered the room and, looking at Naruto, she asked, "What do you want? People are relaxing, and here you are making all this noise." There was a strange intonation in her voice. Malice? No, it was something else, although there was malice there too. The fourth son didn't understand where it was coming from in her voice. Yes, the villagers had always been rude to him, but he had his parents nearby who supported him. Parents. Naruto remembered his father, his mother, remembered that he wouldn't see them again for a long time, and would he ever see them again? He was lost in his thoughts, not noticing what she was saying. She came closer to him and swung, hitting Naruto on the cheek. He came out of his thoughts and looked at her with lost eyes. Murderer? There were women, children, my friends were there. Tears ran down her face. She was angry at Naruto, but for good reason? Naruto didn't understand why she hit him, what she was saying to him, but he saw one thing for sure: sadness, compassion, and remorse. He closed his eyes again, remembering his father, mother, and her. Lately, her image hadn't left the blonde's head, as if she were a cure for his pain. He didn't know her name, didn't know who she was. Why such a vague warmth emanated from her? Who is she? These were the very questions that were currently swirling in the head of a young, but already tormented boy. The woman, looking at the blonde, was saying something again, but he didn't hear or listen to her. Now another voice was swirling in his head, velvety and gentle, so familiar. He didn't understand the words, but he knew for sure it was her. It was her. But who is she? There was a sound of a door slamming, and 3 people entered Naruto's room: the Hokage, Danzo, and a man in a bear mask, an Anbu. Has Naruto regained consciousness yet? Great! How is he feeling? Hiruzen asked, a smile on his face. Danzo stood next to him, frowning. Something about him had changed. His right arm was hidden in his clothes. It looked as if it had been broken. Naruto was also chained to the bed. Old Hokage, why am I in the hospital? And why am I tied up? The younger blonde asked, looking at the village head in confusion. The smirk on Danzo's face grew even more noticeable. Sarutobi remained silent. He couldn't tell Naruto that he was found in the wrong place. Well, Fidget, you better tell me where you hurt yourself like that. The Sandaime tried to change the subject. And it was a shame. But what can you do? Old age is no fun. As they say, a monkey's eyesight gets weaker in old age. And not just in its eyesight, it's probably Alzheimer's. Its brain is drying up. Its memory is suffering, and so is its attention. Well, I was sitting on Hokage Rock, on Daddy's head. Everyone's eyes flashed, though the bear's eyes weren't there. And what could you see when your face was hidden behind masks? The poor old woman was perplexed. Danzo looked like he was about to choke. Hiruzen looked at her with an expression like, "Who are you? Goodbye?" But he quickly realized she was one of the hospital's medical staff. Wait, had she heard about Naruto's father? The woman from the hospital begins. I think I heard something I shouldn't have. What Hokage could be his father? It seemed that understanding came with the realization of my own stupidity. Of course, the fourth. How could I not guess? But I don't think he had children. Wait, I think Naruto's birthday is the same day the fox attacked. That's when he gets the worst of it from the crowd. The fourth, if he's your son, why did you subject him to such torment? But what if he's no longer his son, but a demon? But I can see in his eyes that he loves his dad very much. It seemed like in those moments, I was reliving every moment of the last 7 years when I saw this child. I thought it was strange. Even back then, at the hospital, all the staff did was blame the newborn child for all the troubles. Superstition, nothing more. And those stripes on his face? So similar to a fox's whiskers, such a painful pressure on the heart. Later, no matter what happened, they blamed him for everything. A man fell ill, it was the fox cub who looked at him. A man died in his sleep, it was also him. That's how superstitions are born. Fourth, forgive us. What have we done with your legacy? The woman from the hospital ends. Are you okay? Hiruzen asked, lightly clapping the woman on the shoulder. She was shaking, beads of sweat appearing on her face. At that moment, she seemed so old. But why? Why does no one know he's the son of Konoha's hero? Why does everyone blame him for all the troubles? What did he do? Was he born during the attack? Became a vessel for a demon? He's the hero of the village, just like his father. Nothing could restrain her impulses. She had to tell this child everything. Danzo's face looked pained. What kind of day is this? This crazy woman found out that Lise is the son of the fourth, just told him that. It contains a demon, and God forbid she'll tell the whole village, and we'll spread the word throughout Konoha. What are these A&B guys made of? Or are they guarding the Hokage under something? Uzumaki Naruto begins. Today I learned that a nine-tailed fox demon is sealed within me, but that doesn't matter. That woman let it slip, and the look on her face was like that. Confusion, fear, compassion, and the pain of emotional torment. The image of that girl wouldn't leave my head. Black hair and violet eyes. Who are you? The next day, I was discharged from the hospital. True, I wouldn't be alone now. Some shinobi would be keeping an eye on me. I wouldn't have been able to walk home alone. They wouldn't have let me, for starters. All I could do was wait for my escort, who was already an hour and a half late. And so, an hour, 42 minutes, and 16 seconds later he arrived. Ash blonde, his hair stuck up at an angle to the left. Half his face was covered by a dark blue mask, the forehead protector hanging diagonally, obscuring his left eye. Neither mouth, nor nose, nor chin were visible. His right eye, the only visible part of his face, showed neither contempt nor hatred. He wore the standard Konoha Jonin uniform, a black jacket with the sleeves rolled up halfway up his forearm, and pants the same color as the jacket. Over the jacket, he wore a green Konoha vest. You wouldn't guess his personality from his appearance, though his eyes, looked kind. Naruto, my name is Hatake Kakashi. From this day forward, I am officially your guardian. First, we'll go to your house to pack, and then we can pop in somewhere. His voice seemed cheerful. But the thing was, somewhere deep down, there seemed to be immense sadness, pain, guilt. I saw it in him, just as I saw people die. A breath of wind next to me, a connection between souls, heart to heart. I walked up to him and hugged him. It's okay, it's not your fault. You have to let them go, because they will always be in your heart. I didn't recognize my own words. Everything I wanted was said in a voice that wasn't mine. It happens to me that way often. Before my eyes was a beautiful girl who smiled warmly at me. Uzumaki Naruto is finished. Hatake Kakashi has begun. Today, the third Hokage summoned me to his office, probably sending me on another mission. I arrived late, as usual. Is this a habit? Or is this just my way of expressing myself? The Hokage, as always, reminded me that being late is not nice. His voice was calm, but my keen hearing picked up the faintest hint of irritation. For a moment, I felt alive. Before the conversation could even begin, an Anbu in a bear mask flew through the window. Hokage-sama, the body of Uchiha Itachi was discovered on the border of the Land of Fire. The cause of death was suicide. Anbu reported to the village head. It was so recently. Itachi, I remember this boy, who loved two things more than anything else, the village and his brother. Why he wiped out the entire clan remains a mystery to me, but I have some theories. His younger brother, Uchiha Sasuke, survived the massacre, but he didn't live even a few hours. This morning, I was one of those who discovered his body and suicide note. A poor child who lost everything in an instant, who couldn't endure being alone. Sarutobi was saying something to me, but I wasn't listening anymore, remembering the most important Uchiha in my life, my first friend, who had only been so for a few days. The old man cleared his throat, the tension growing. Yes, Hokage-sama? Kakashi, I've convinced the elders to grant your request. As of today, you are Naruto's official guardian. I understand they refused you before, but because of what happened, he can't live alone anymore. I think one day, he won't be able to take it anymore and will snap. You've heard what's going on in Suna, right? My head felt like it was about to explode from the sheer volume of thoughts. I felt uneasy, remembering all those rumors. The demon who wiped out the Uchiha clan. A child in the wrong place at the wrong time. The son of a teacher, unaware of his heritage. A lonely child who could snap. When the third said Naruto might snap, I didn't immediately think of a bloodthirsty monster terrorizing the villagers. For some reason, I remembered my brother Itachi, who had ended his loneliness. Hokage-sama, will he live with me at my place? Or should I move to the apartment next door, where I know your observer lives? Kakashi, neither one thing nor the other. You'll be living in Minato's house, since this property should belong to Naruto, if not for the elders. I mean, really, did they and Danzo really decide to tell the weapon of the village the truth? The Hokage's words surprised me, so I asked. So Naruto knows who his parents are, and why Danzo told him. But here I was shocked. How could the man who took every measure to keep Naruto's parentage from leaking out to the public actually tell him? I wouldn't have believed it if it hadn't been the Hokage who said it. Hokage-sama, I'm interested in the answer to one question. I seem to recall that the teacher had several bank accounts outside of his home, but they somehow magically disappeared. What will happen to them? I see your grimacing expression, respected third. Did you really have a hand in the forced money? But then why is there such pity and guilt in your eyes? The money. I'll try to do something. The elders and Danzo took most of it, for the good of the village. By the way, Naruto's apartment was bought with them. That's the only thing I could do. Kakashi, I'm already old. I can't go against the elders. It took me a huge effort to keep Danzo from influencing Naruto, and he wanted to raise him en route, and Komura and Koharu supported him. Recently, a nurse from the hospital learned of Naruto's heritage, and we're not sure she'll keep it quiet. And what happens next, you already know. With the right propaganda, we can get the money back to Minato's son. After the meeting, I went straight to the teacher's house. A small, cozy two-story house, not as large as the residences of clan heads like the Uchiha and Hyuga, but quite suitable for habitation. A thick, untouched layer of dust lay everywhere. Apparently, few people had visited here since death. Although the mansion's security was high, it wasn't for nothing that Kushina was from the Uzumaki clan. As I recalled, the library was in the basement, but alas, there was nothing left there. I'd have to ask the Hokage. After creating 2 shadow clones and ordering them to clean up, I went to my room to pack. I was supposed to pick Naruto up from the hospital an hour and a half ago, but I couldn't bring him back to that filthy house. Naruto, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. From this day forward, I am officially your guardian. First, we'll go to your house to pack, and then we can pop in somewhere. I tried to sound more friendly. Suddenly, Naruto came up to me and hugged me. I didn't understand what had happened. There were rumors about him being strange, but not like this. It's okay. It's not your fault. You have to let them go, because they'll always be in your heart. How did he know? His heavenly eyes clouded over with a grayish haze, reflecting sadness, but after a few seconds, it all vanished, and only a warm glow illuminated my soul. It seemed as if Rin and Obito were reflected in his eyes. My soul felt lighter. I wanted to take off my mask and catch the sun's rays on my face. Thank you. Such a strange Naruto. Hitaki Kakashi is finished. Uzumaki Naruto begins. A week has passed since the incident, and I can finally return to the academy. Kakashi-sen has been in a cheerful mood lately, and he's been late less often. Tomorrow will be one of the most important days of my life. The day my personal training begins. A very funny incident happened yesterday, which I didn't forget to remind my guardian about today. May the force of youth be with us. It's not for nothing that you're my eternal rival, Kakashi, but I won't lose to you in this competition. I'll take custody of 3 orphans. I tried to imitate the voice of that scary man with the huge eyebrows and the tight-fitting green suit. Kakashi winced, and I laughed again. The week I spent in the new house, I explored my new place. This is my parents' mansion. I found a lot of photographs, my parents together, childhood photos, photos of my dad with his students, Kakashi-san looking so funny in them. There were also photos of my dad and his teacher. My guardian says this man is a great shinobi, one of the legendary trio, and also a great writer. That same day, I tried to look for some of his books in the house, but Kakashi-san had misplaced them. For some reason, all that was left was The Tale of the Fearless Shinobi. My name was the same as the main characters. Now I knew that I was named after him, and not after ramen, although I have nothing against the latter. When I arrived at the academy, people were looking at me strangely, children were whispering, and only Nara Shikamaru was sleeping in the back row, oblivious. Then Yamanaka Ino approached me and asked a question. Naruto, is it true you're the 4th Hokage's son? Suddenly the whisper stopped. Everyone looked at me expectantly. Well, almost everyone. The Nara was still asleep. I nodded hesitantly. Some of the girls' eyes lit up with adoration, others with distrust and resentment. Who do you believe? He's lying, as always. Sensei told us a month ago that the 4th Hokage had no children. A boy's voice came from behind me, and I turned around and froze. I hadn't seen this boy before, or maybe I just hadn't looked closely enough. I was struck by everything, his appearance, his eyes. Everything about him spoke of that nameless girl from my dreams, the one I simply had to find. Who are you? Those were the only 2 words I could utter. I didn't care that Irika-sensei had just entered the classroom, that the adoring expression in some people's eyes had turned to disdain. Hyuga, you, heir to the main branch of the Hyuga clan. Don't look at me like that, you lowborn. People like you aren't worthy of being residents of the village hidden in the leaves. I simply didn't care what he said, that he called me lowborn, that he was trying to drag me through the mud. It didn't matter that no one had said a word in my defense. Now at least I knew who to look for. I spent the entire rest of the class waiting. A multitude of thoughts raced through my head. I had to ask him. I had to ask about her. But pride wouldn't let me approach. Pride be damned. I had to find out. Yukuen, do you have a sister? Hyuga glanced at me in surprise. It was clear from his expression that he was considering his answer. I have a younger sister, Hanabi. But don't even think you can win her over. And don't you dare talk to me again, you scum. His expression returned to its usual, befitting his name. He said younger sister, but the girl from the visions was about our age. I didn't know what to do. After the academy, I decided to think about it. What better place than the rock with the Hokage's faces? I sat again in my favorite spot, on my dad's head, and looked at the clouds covering the sky. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and lightning flashed somewhere. Oh, if only there were a god of thunder. For a moment it thundered here, and the sky was covered with clouds, and the rain poured down. Oh, maybe then. Did he stop you, my love? I turned around, and next to me stood a girl of about 25, her eyes reflecting a longing for someone. I saw it. I couldn't see her eyes, strangely, but their image was immediately erased from my memory. Long black hair fell in waves over her shoulders. You know, I often have a dream in which a beautiful girl with violet eyes tries to talk to me. She looks a lot like my classmate, Yu. Every day, I wake up hoping that one day I'll find her. But I don't even know her name. I don't know why I'm telling her this, that it will change anything, but I just wanted to get it off my chest. It started to rain. I turned around, but there was no one else behind me. But was she even there? When I got home, I was dripping wet. Apparently, there would be no training today. I went up to my room and changed into dry clothes. Kakashi wasn't here yet. I finished reading Jiraiya's book yesterday, so there was nothing else to do. I sat at the kitchen table and looked out onto the street. Beautiful flowers, the color of her eyes, were growing outside the window. That evening, Kakashi didn't say anything to me. He came home late, and I'd already gone to bed, though I hadn't fallen asleep yet. I was lying in my room, staring at the ceiling. Hatake and I had recently whitewashed it, and it was really funny. It was the first time he'd taken off his mask in front of me. What happened? Why hadn't he come to training? Was there a reason, or was he just ignoring me? I didn't know. I couldn't sleep. How much time had passed? An hour? 2? Or maybe less. It was raining outside. The drops beat out an incomprehensible rhythm on the roof and windowsill. The wind rustled the leaves. Thunder sounded somewhere, and I was remembering. I remember very clearly the first time I heard thunder. I was about 4 years old then, and it was raining heavily outside, just like now, and I was scared. That time, my mother comforted me, her cold fingers gently running through my hair. I didn't yet know she was a ghost, but I loved her very much, and I still love her very much. She was telling me a story. The words spoken in a quiet, calm voice captivated me. I really liked my mother's story. The main character was a girl with a very strange name, Alice. I didn't know where my mother got this story from. I had never heard of anyone in our village with such funny names, but the name Alice didn't seem funny to me. It was very beautiful. Alice, I said, testing the name. The first attempt failed. The second letter refused to come out, making such a gentle name seem rougher. And yet, we are somehow similar. The misunderstood, the ones who are called eccentrics, laughed at and feared. But was Alice feared in this fairy tale? Honestly, almost all of its meaning had practically flown from my head. Only an image remained, so similar to my stranger. And yet, why does she look so much like you? Was my last thought before I fell asleep. I woke up in a good mood the next morning. It wasn't raining, and looking out the window, I saw the sunrise beautifully reflected in the small puddles. After washing and dressing, I went downstairs. Kakashi was busy in the kitchen, and this time he wasn't wearing a mask. 2 servings of delicious-smelling omelet were already on the table, along with 2 small bowls of rice. When Hatake turned around, I saw 2 cups of hot coffee, which he immediately placed on the table. "Good morning, Kakashi-san." "Good day, Naruto," my guardian said, sitting down at the table. I immediately joined him. "Well then, Naruto, let's get to eating." "Itadakimasu." "Itadakimasu," I repeated and began breakfast. There was silence at the table during the meal. Although I'd realized this a week ago, I'm always willing to repeat it. Kakashi cooks very well. When we were finished, I looked at my guardian sipping his coffee. We had a conversation ahead of us. Sighing, Hatake began. "Naruto, I'm so sorry things turned out this way. An urgent mission outside the village came up, and even though it wasn't very far, I couldn't make it on time. I'm completely at your disposal for today. So we'll still be able to train, okay? Kakashi looked at me, and I saw sadness and guilt in his eyes. He really didn't mean it. It just happened that way. It was strange to see him like this, and in a surge of gratitude, I ran up to him and hugged him. Okay, Nisan, now I'm off to get ready for the academy. My last words made Kakashi freeze for a second, my ears burning treacherously, my soul warm from the warm expression in his eyes. Uzumaki Naruto is finished. Hatake Kakashi begins. When Naruto called me big brother, I froze for a moment. It was the first time he'd called me that. As a child, I longed to be accepted. I wanted to be part of the family of the teacher who had become my father figure. Minato-sensei was more precious to me than anyone I knew, with the exception of Obito and Rin, of course. Naruto, I'll be a good big brother to you, I promise. No one heard these words, spoken in the kitchen, but they were still important, especially to me. Hatake Kakashi is finished. Uzumaki Naruto begins. After the academy, I ran home as fast as I could. Today, Irika-sensei talked about elemental chakra. Some of us already knew a lot of it, but it was still very interesting. Here I am, my new home, and I still can't get used to it. I'm home. My voice seemed too loud to me. Welcome back, Naruto. Kakashi's voice came from somewhere in the kitchen. Nisan was by the stove, looking very funny, in his shinobi uniform and apron, his forehead protector covering his left eye as always, and no mask. It seems to me that I've been noticing him in the kitchen more and more lately. I wonder if he always spent so much time there, or if I'm making him into a housewife. After a very tasty lunch, the conversation turned to the academy. No one had ever asked about my academic progress before, except maybe Old Man Tucci. When I talked about elemental chakra, Kakashi, smiling, caught my every word. If only I could find my element, I said with a sigh. Nisan had gone off somewhere. He returned 2 or 3 minutes later, holding a wooden box, which he placed on the table. Inside were some sheets of paper. This is a special paper for testing chakra element. Looking at my questioning gaze, Hatake grinned. Yes, the very one you told me about. A person takes a piece of paper and channels a bit of their chakra through it. Air splits the paper in half, fire burns it, lightning crumples it. Water makes the paper wet, and earth makes it crumble to dust. Now we can begin the training. Nisan, what is your element? Basic Raitan. I also have a mastery of Suiton and Doton, but to a lesser degree. Your father had Raitan and Futon, though he never fully mastered air. Now, take the paper and finally figure out your element. Wow, Kakashi has 3 elements. I wonder what mine will be. I thought, took the paper, and concentrated my chakra. Uzumaki Naruto is finished. Uzumaki Naruto begins. And time keeps passing, I'm already 10. Yes, so much time has passed, I haven't seen my stranger for so long. I didn't know whether to be happy or sad. I was glad that she was okay. She was no longer at death's door, as in those moments when I see her, but I was sad. I hadn't seen her for 4 years. Kakashi finds time to train with me almost every day, though when he has missions, he has to train alone. During this time, we mostly focused on chakra control, walking on steep cliffs, trees, and water. We also practiced taijutsu with the occasional green beast of Konoha, helping us out. How does Nisan tolerate him? Working with elemental chakra wasn't going so well at first. Yes, I was lucky with my element. I had lightning, like my father and Nisan. It's a good thing my primary element isn't wind or fire, otherwise Kakashi wouldn't have been able to train me. My study of elemental chakra only took off after a fan of Jiraiya's works taught me the shadow clone technique. At first, I thought it was unnecessary. I was sick of cloning techniques, especially illusory ones. But when I learned that these clones were tangible and could even transfer experience to the original, I was overjoyed. My learning rate would increase several fold, depending on how many clones I could create. The downside was that I was getting incredibly tired of creating clones. But think about it, creating one clone is worth it, and with my chakra reserves, when I want to create about 100 clones, that's downright tedious. But soon I found a way out, the technique of mass shadow cloning. I only needed to add a few seals, and everything was ready. All that was left was to find this technique. How wonderful it is to be the fourth Hokage's son! The technique was forbidden due to its high chakra consumption and was kept in the Umbu archives. But alas, it was my father who last protected it, and it seems the system mistook me for him, since no one thought to restrict access. And now I have a description of this technique. Having quickly copied the scroll using clones, I headed home. Nissan won't be back from his mission for a while. There's still time. It took me about 10 minutes to master the technique. I knew the basics of shadow cloning. All that remained was to learn how to create the required number of clones. That's what I was doing until Kakashi arrived. I sent several of the resulting clones to the basement, to the library. The village had finally returned my father and mother's scrolls, but I had a feeling they weren't all of them. The clones were practicing seal techniques downstairs, and before I knew it, I dozed off in the garden. The next day, I had to go to the academy again. Kakashi still hadn't returned from his mission. I was a little worried, but after looking around, I smiled. The main thing was that he was alive. It turns out there was a midterm exam today. I'd completely forgotten about it, and I was feeling tired after dispelling the clones that morning. Why is life so unfair? I stumbled upon this damned illusionary cloning. It was the only test I couldn't master in the practical part. No matter how hard I tried to train it, it was far from perfect. Sure, I managed to create a weak, flawed clone, and even a slightly transparent one at that, but I failed the practical part, to say nothing of the theory. So, son of the fourth, nothing's working out? Many still considered me a liar, since not a single book said the fourth had children. To them, even though I was no longer at the bottom of the academic list, I was still the same incompetent, weird Naruto. And all because of those illusory clones. Nissan encouraged me, telling me everything would definitely work out, and I believed him. Naruto, Kushina-san, your mother was also weak in this technique. She hated it with a passion, just like you. Maybe it's a family weakness? Even your mother couldn't do this technique. I wonder if the other Uzumaki had problems with this technique too. I need to look it up somewhere. After creating one clone, I sent it to the Hokage. He said there would be problems if I appealed. I don't know if the third was telling the truth, but he personally saw 3 Uzumaki using this technique. So the family predisposition theory is out of the question. Well, I'll have to train. After that incident, 5 clones work on this technique every training session. Hard work pays off, little by little, but the technique is getting better. I hope I can fully master it before the final exam. Everything was the same at the academy, except for my improved grades. I really wanted Nissan to praise me for my success. Hyuga was in the lead in every subject except one, but what could he do? He was the heir to the village's most powerful clan, a genius. He was only surpassed in sealing techniques. That's just what they call sealing techniques, but in reality, in this class, we learned how to seal objects in scrolls and create signal and explosive seals. In our class, I was the best at Fuinjutsu, which isn't surprising, since I am an Uzumaki after all. Out of the whole class, I was the first to achieve results. The girls who always chased after the Hyugas looked at me with dismay. How could some loser have outdone their genius? They called me a cheater, a loser. Only 3 people in the class weren't surprised. Shika and Choji, my only friends in the class, knew about my clan affiliation, and Irika-sensei still remembered that even Jiraiya, who had studied Fuinjutsu for so many years, could never compare to the Uzumakis. And if the Hyugas were geniuses of the soft-handed style, and the Uchihas were geniuses of the Katon and Sharingan, Then the Uzumakis were masters of Fuinjutsu. But many in the class still considered me clanless, despite the fact that 4 years ago, I told them about the once great clan. Only 1 year left, and I'll finally be able to become a shinobi. How I long to be on a team with Shikamaru and Chuji, but alas, they're the only ones who know what team they'll be on. Ino Shikacho is a long-established, proven tandem, where each team member knows each other's strengths and weaknesses and can watch their comrades' backs. And I kept looking at my classmates and wondering which of them fate would bring me together with, in the person of the third Hokage. I trained diligently all year, and the illusionary clones were almost perfect, inferior to the originals only in brightness, but I'll quickly figure that out. Neeson helped me find a teacher for my second element, which turned out to be air, just like my father's. Things weren't going so well with lightning techniques. Kakashi promised to teach me Chidori and other techniques as soon as I became a genin. He's a copy ninja, after all. Right now, I only knew 2 techniques: lightning chakra enhancement, which improves speed and strength and also provides defense. Neeson said the Reikage is famous for this technique, making him the fastest man in the world. The second technique was an electric field. However, these 2 techniques were only slightly different. I began mastering air under the strict supervision of Sarutobi Asuma, or more accurately, he gave me tasks that I and the clones practiced. Sarutobi himself played shogi with Shikamaru. Even though Nara and I were friends, I didn't like playing shogi, even though I knew how. By the time I graduated from the academy, I had 2 elements at my disposal. All that remained was to learn the techniques. My father's library of futon techniques contained very few, though Kakashi said he collected quite a few. And who would need them? Besides Asuma and me, someone named Shimura Danzo also had air. I think he was the bandaged old man. I wonder if he'd agree to teach me a few techniques. I'd read all the literature on Fujitsu in the house, but it was hard to figure it out without a teacher. There were no competent masters in the village, and few had advanced beyond the academy level, and even then, only the Umbu. Kakashi knew a few seals, too. So I'll try to figure it out on my own. I am an Uzumaki, after all. And finally, the day arrived. I had to take 4 exams. The first was the theoretical part, a standard test, problems on fieldwork, and the like. We took it first. I solved half the problems very quickly. Kakashi had made me study for a reason. The second half was more difficult. I didn't remember some of the problems, but I still tried. The second was a taijutsu exam. Many of the group had their own fighting styles, all clan-related. Hyuga-yu, of course, showed the best performance. Those without clans fared worse, using the standard fighting style taught at the academy. I was still just developing my own style, using techniques Kakashi and Guy had shown me, and combinations from the academy. Nisan advised combining my fighting style with lightning chakra, releasing a weak charge of electricity when striking, thereby influencing the opponent's fighting style. The third exam was kunai throwing. Even though I trained every day, I still couldn't catch you. Only 1 kunai separated me from him, just a few centimeters from the center of the target, and we would have been equal. The fourth exam was ninjutsu. Some of my classmates didn't take the exam, mostly clan members. They had to demonstrate a single family technique. Those without clans and I did. If only my clan were still alive, I wouldn't have taken it either. I demonstrated a few combat seals and passed the exam. I had a feeling I'd been hit by illusory clones. You should have seen the looks on my classmates' faces. Everyone was very surprised. Of course, most of them mastered the technique in just a few days, while I spent several years on it, and that's with the clones. I was third overall. Hyuga-yu was first, of course, and first in all exams except theory, where Haruno Sakura surpassed him. It's a shame Fujitsu wasn't taught as a separate subject, but only as part of ninjutsu. I would have shown everyone. When the results were announced, Yu's fans screamed, squealed, and gazed adoringly at him, basking in the glory. Still, He was too arrogant. When my results were announced, almost everyone looked at me with disdain, unable to believe I'd earned the Jinin headband, even though they'd witnessed me taking the exams. Tomorrow we'll be assigned to teams, and I'm eyeing my classmates. Usually, there are 2 shinobi and 1 kunoichi per team. Of all the girls, only Inuzuka Hana doesn't play you, and she's neutral toward me, though she's that way about everyone. I know she spends most of her time at the veterinary clinic, looking after dogs. Another person I'd like to be in the same group with is Aburame Shino. I barely heard this guy speak, but unlike the others, he looks at me with understanding. Kakashi said this clan breeds insects that feed on chakra. Usually, when people find out the bugs live right under Aburame's skin, they look at them with disgust. He probably thinks we're similar. I'm the Jinchuriki, the village's weapon, the man the entire village hates, and he's the heir to the clan head. It's no wonder he might know about my villager. Besides those 2, I didn't see anyone else on my team, unless they were from our class. Everyone was met by their parents as we left the academy, including Nisan. The sun was shining right in my eyes. I could have sworn I saw my parents' silhouettes for a few seconds against the cloudless, bright blue sky. "You're doing great, Naruto." I was the happiest man in the world, with my family by my side, and even the disdainful glances of the villagers couldn't ruin that. Uzumaki Naruto is finished. Chapter 6. Uzumaki Naruto begins. I woke to the sound of my alarm. The smell of omelette drifted downstairs. Nisan must be making breakfast. After soaking in the water, I got dressed and went downstairs. The delicate purple flowers by the window were already in bloom. It had been so long since I'd seen her. Coffee in the morning, how wonderful. There was still an hour until the sorting. Kakashi was smiling strangely, but he still didn't say what had happened. Deciding to take a walk, I left early. The sun was shining brightly, reflecting off the shiny metal tire. Shinobi ran past on the rooftops, apparently rushing to a mission. The people glanced at them briefly, and then went about their business, accustomed to it. There was no one near the academy yet, and my favorite swing was unoccupied. Sitting down on it, I closed my eyes and looked at the sky. Cumulus clouds were slowly approaching the village. "Good morning," Shikamaru said, sitting down and leaning against a tree. I nodded and continued looking at the sky. This habit had developed after spending so much time with Nara. The young Jinin were approaching the academy. A few minutes later, Chuji arrived, carrying a bag of chips, as usual. Shikamaru and I nodded in unison. Well, it was time to go to class. There weren't many people in the classroom, so I sat down at the back of the room, next to Hana, and looked around. Yu's fans were crowded around him, and Sakura and Ino were arguing over who would sit next to him. An unfamiliar, pale, dark-haired man sat in the front row, smiling somewhat falsely. 10 minutes later, Irika-sensei arrived. He glanced at everyone gathered and smiled sadly. "Congratulations to everyone on graduating from the academy. This is the day you say goodbye to childhood. You are now adults, true shinobi, ready to serve the village. I will miss you, but I am still proud that you were my students. Now, let's begin the team assignments." The teacher's voice was sad, but he was still happy for us. Team assignments went as I expected. The girls squealed and sighed resignedly, looking toward you. Some looked around for their comrades. Team 7, Uzumaki Naruto, Haruno Sakura, Nakamura Sai. Mentor, Hataki Kakashi. I looked around, trying to find my new comrades. Sakura, another one of Yu's fans. The girl was upset, sighed, looked at me, and, like me, looked for a certain Sai. The same black-haired guy smiled. Most likely, it was him. Nisan is our sensei now. I wonder if he'll be late today. He seemed to have gotten rid of this habit over the past few years, but he still shows up sometimes. Meanwhile, Master Irika was announcing the next team. Team 8, Inazuka Hana, Aburain Shino, and Hyuga Yu. Mentor, Yuhi Kurinai. Disappointment echoed from all sides. The girls looked enviously at Hana, who exchanged a phlegmatic glance with Shino, glanced briefly at Yu, and then returned to her usual task of scratching her puppy behind the ear. Hyuga himself sighed resignedly. This particular girl was paying no attention to the star boy, which was incredibly frustrating. Team 10, Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, Chuji Akimichi. Mentor, Asuma Sarutobi. The composition of this team surprised no one, only Ino gave the Hyuga a doomed look. Team 9 hadn't been named, but I knew it was my guy's team number. Although there was another Hyuga on that team, Niji didn't strike me as so arrogant, despite being a genius. He reminded me of a caged bird, trying to break free, away from clan prejudices. There was also a guy on that team, Rock Lee, who tried to emulate his teacher, who was also his guardian, in everything. After Kakashi became my guardian, my guy searched for a ward for a long time, and finally found Lee, who recently started pestering me too. Naruto, be my eternal rival. The last member of their team was a girl named Tintin. She was a master of using various weapons. Before the exam, she trained with me several times in throwing kunai and kenjutsu, and I, in turn, helped her with sealing weapons into scrolls. Irika, sensei, finished announcing the teams, and it was time for lunch. The instructors were supposed to arrive in an hour. Old man Tucci was glad to see me. I'd rarely been to Ichiraka lately. Shikamaru and Chuji were sitting next to me. Akimichi was already on his third bowl of ramen, keeping pace with me. Nara was only finishing his first serving. Ino had gone off somewhere with a group of girls, apparently trying to have lunch with you. My comrades were also gone. I hadn't exchanged more than a few words with Nakamura and Sakura, just a regular Yu fan. Here we are, sitting in the classroom, our instructor standing in front of us. Kakashi wasn't late this time, which isn't surprising. We split into teams and headed up to the roof. There was a small garden around it. Hey, my name is Hitaki Kakashi, and from this day forward, I'm your sensei. First, you should introduce yourself, your name, your dreams, your hobbies, your likes and dislikes. Well, that's what I thought. First, we'll try to get to know each other. Then we'll have some teamwork training. Perhaps you could set an example for us? Of course, it was Sakura. Looking at Nissan, I couldn't help but laugh softly. His single gaze held only one question. For what? Well then, as I already said, my name is Hitaki Kakashi. I don't want to tell you what I like and what I don't. Dreams? Well, I have a lot of hobbies. As expected from Nissan, Sakura will most likely now deliver the final word on his speech. And in the end, we only found out his name. Oh yeah, Sakura, that's what I expected from you. He's not going to say he likes reading pornographic novels, is he? He respects teamwork and doesn't like those who don't value their comrades. How will he ever test our teamwork after that? Now it's your turn. Let's start with Naruto. Well, there you go, you set me up. I looked at Kakashi, who smirked. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I love ramen, especially at Ichiraku, and I love training with Nissan. I hate waiting around while the ramen brews and Nissan tries to weasel out of training. I dream of becoming a strong shinobi, and also of finding that one person. Heh, how Kakashi rolled his eyes at me when I didn't like it. Next, it was Sakura's turn. My name is Haruno Sakura, and I like someone. I dream of him becoming my husband someday. But I don't like it when Ino hangs around my Yu. Oh, I can't. He almost burst out laughing. Sakura is so Sakura. Now you, Kakashi said, pointing at the brunette. My name is Nakamura Sai. I love to draw, but I don't like renegades. My dream is to be useful to the village and draw a panorama of Konoha. This time his smile was genuine. Well, that's it. We've finally met. I'll expect you at the 7th training ground tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I suggest you skip breakfast, or you'll get sick later. We'll see what you can do." "That'll be it," Kakashi said, disappearing in a puff of white smoke. Sai followed him without saying a word to us. Uzumaki Naruto is finished. The morning at the Uzumaki house was no different that day. Kakashi was still making breakfast. Naruto turned off the alarm with a disgruntled expression and trudged to the bathroom. Uzumaki Naruto begins. When I went down to the kitchen, breakfast was already ready. Nisen nodded silently toward my plate, sat down next to me, and began eating. I glanced at Kakashi. Yes, my poor comrades. They've probably just woken up and are getting ready for the training grounds. Everything was delicious, as always. I wonder if he still remembers that he forbade us from eating breakfast. Thank you, Nisen. Everything was delicious, and now I'm off. Quickly attaching the pouch with kunai to my belt, I hurried to the 7th training ground. There was half an hour left until the appointed time. I needed to talk to Sai and Sakura about the mission. Knowing Nisen, he would be checking on teamwork. I quickly reached my destination. Nakamura was sitting, leaning against a tree, doodling, occasionally dipping his pen into the inkwell. "Hey, what are you drawing?" Sai looked up from his work and a slight, barely noticeable, bright smile appeared on his face. He showed me a beautiful ink drawing. The delicate lines of houses against the black sun. Beautiful. I wish I could draw like that. Listen, Sakura hasn't arrived yet, but I'd like to talk about the task Kakashi-sensei is giving us. I froze. The silhouette of a white-haired boy with black, sad eyes visible next to me. Then, transparent fingers tried to reach Sai, but it was as if they were hitting an invisible barrier, and the boy pulled his hand back in pain. Something was holding this boy here. Wait, don't. Sai, what's in your right pocket? Nakamura pulled out a small, hardcover book in surprise. My hand instinctively reached for it. Uzumaki Naruto is finished. Nakamura sighed beginning. I sat and painted the sunrise over the village, the sun's rays illuminating the residence building. Another untitled painting. Hey, what are you drawing? Uzumaki Naruto. The village's Jinchuriki stood next to me. I looked up and at him. His file, which Danzo-sama had given me to read, described his characteristics and some of his abilities and quirks. But there was one thing everyone in the village knew, something odd about this guy. I hadn't seen anything strange in the past 2 days, an ordinary genin, perhaps, except perhaps his overly energetic nature and his habit of dressing entirely in orange. I showed him the drawing briefly, dipped my pen in the inkwell, and drew another line. Beautiful, I wish I could draw like that. Listen, Sakura didn't come, but I wanted to talk about the task Kakashi-sensei is giving us. Naruto froze. Now I thought I understood why they called him strange. There was something otherworldly in his gaze. Someone else's pain was reflected in his eyes. Wait, don't. Sai, what's in your right pocket? I wondered why he needed it, and pulled my book of drawings out of my pocket. Uzumaki reached for it. There was a familiar, such a dear expression in his eyes. I didn't know what to do. Naruto slowly took my book. The wind slowly turned the pages. Sad, so sad and painful. Shin had the same expression in his eyes. Our shared desires and dreams began to surface in my memory. I wonder if he was angry with me. How I miss him. The middle of the book, an empty space, there should be pictures of us together. I pull the book towards me, take a pencil out of my pocket and draw. My heart immediately feels lighter. The Jinchuriki's clouded eyes draw me closer. Shin! My eyes started to sting. A slight smile flitted across Naruto's face. His eyes dimmed for a moment, and then he returned. Thank you. Such a strange Naruto. Nakamura Sai is finished. The girl with long cherry blossom hair watched her comrades with interest. She'd almost forgotten how scary Naruto could be, these strange tantrums. Sensei hadn't arrived yet, and Sakura sat at the edge of the training ground. The other members of Team 7 didn't see her. 10 minutes later, Kakashi, the sensei arrived. "Sakura, come here!" Hitaki called to the girl, waving his hand. The green-eyed kunoichi quickly ran up to her mentor. "Well then, your task is to retrieve these 2 bells. Anyone who fails will be sent back to the academy. You must be extremely serious. Now, let's begin." Sakura opened and closed her mouth silently, like a fish, trying to speak, but unable to. "Kakashi-sensei, how can this be? We passed all the exams, we're Chunin now." Naruto and Sai exchanged smiles. Sakura didn't see their smirks and continued to be indignant. "Something's wrong?" Hitaki Kakashi's single eye conveyed so much emotion. Sakura shuddered, took a step back, and shook her head. "Now let's get started." Not a second passed, and Team 7's Chunin had already disappeared into the forest. Naruto immediately found Sai and was conversing with him. One of Uzumaki's clones tried to persuade Sakura to cooperate, but she refused, hitting him on the head. The clone vanished, still unable to reach an agreement with the kunoichi. Kakashi stood in the middle of the clearing, reading a book with an interested expression. From the direction of the forest came Nakamura's cry. "Ninpo, painted beasts!" 2 ink lions ran toward Kakashi, who put away his book, performed some kind of seal, and vanished. The sound of metal striking came from the forest. 2 Narutos chased Kakashi toward the clearing, each strike creating flashes of light and metallic glimmers. The ink lions raced toward Hitaki, followed by Sai, who pulled another kunai from his bag. He threw it sharply toward the sensei, who was about to perform another seal. The kunai missed Kakashi's hand by a centimeter, and one of the Narutos caught it in midair and sent it flying back. Original or clone, it was unclear which it was. A shadow fell on the shinobi. A huge bird approached from the sun. Another Naruto approached from above, the light reflecting off the small blade and right into Kakashi's eye. A sharp jump to the side, a weak breeze brings the quiet ringing of bells to the shinobi. Naruto and Sai looked at their teacher, smiling. A scowling Sakura emerged from the forest, glaring angrily at Naruto. Chapter 7 Uzumaki Naruto begins. "So our test is over. Sai and I passed it, unlike Sakura. When Nissen talked about teamwork, he praised Nakamura and me for our teamwork. How we use techniques to help our comrade. I like Sai. He understood me instantly, I think, or maybe he became more emotional after the incident with the drawing. Sakura Hitaki reprimanded me. I should have accepted my offer to collaborate, but she refused and even used her hands. I don't know how we'll work together as a team. I would never trust someone who hates me to watch my back." And after the test, I had no doubt about it. Her eyes speak for themselves. If it were up to me, we'd have another person on our team, but alas, we've been divided into teams, and it's too late to change anything now, but I'll still talk to my brother about it. And now, the time has finally come. I'm already a Chunin, and both Nissen and I have free time. And now it's time to train. Having formed the Mass Shadow Clone seal, I created 50 copies of myself. Finally, I'll be able to learn Chidori and other lightning techniques. Asuma-sensei was busy, so I couldn't learn air, but I sent word through Shikamaru that I'll find out when I have time. The technique wasn't particularly difficult to master. It simply required concentrating more chakra in your hand than you used for your strikes. The problem was control. It was difficult to adapt to your opponent's fighting style without hitting others. When forming the Chidori, my coordination was slightly off, with one hand moving faster than the other. But thanks to the clones, I was able to master it in just 5 hours. Well, if you add up all the time the clones and I spent on this training, then 51 Narutos spent a combined 255 hours, which is roughly equal to 10 to 11 days. Kakashi, as always, was in the kitchen. Tomorrow was our first mission. Dinner had been heavy. I needed to gather more strength. After today, I decided to try drawing something. Nakamura's work had somehow caught my attention. I wished I could depict nature and people like that. I sat, leaning over the table, slowly moving my pencil across the paper. It had been so long since I'd drawn. I didn't even know about my parents back then. They were right there with me. My mother looked at my drawings with a smile, told me stories, and was simply there. Outside, the wind rustled the leaves. Flashes of lightning tore through the cumulus clouds in the dark blue sky. I slowly traced the outlines of the nighttime village. A stream of cold rain poured down from the sky, obscuring my vision. Each rumble of thunder echoed in my heart like a new pounding. Her silhouette appeared before my eyes. Long, black hair fell down her back, bangs covering one side of her face. Her arms seemed too thin, and her eyes reflected a cold calm. Although she resembled you, there were still differences. I wanted to say something, but with another flash of lightning, her image disappeared. How I wanted to find her. I know she's alive. I just have to look. I pulled out a new sheet of paper. Her image was before me again, and then vanished again in a flash of lightning. My hand traced the delicate lines of her face. It seemed as if someone invisible was moving the brush. A thin lilac thread, the color of the stranger's eyes, stretched off into the distance. A sharp pain made me shudder. Where is she? Streams of red wind rushed away from me in all directions. A roar was heard on the first floor, and a few seconds later, an Aisen was in my room. Naruto, what's wrong? Calm down, I'm here. His voice sounded like it was being poured through a thick layer of water. My eyes were stung by intense pain. Another flash of lightning, and I saw her again. She was looking at me, and I couldn't take it anymore. Where are you? I want to find you so much. The wind died down, tears slowly streaming from my eyes. Nisen hugged me tenderly and said something reassuring, but I kept thinking about her. Uzumaki Naruto is finished. Hatake Kakashi begins. It was raining outside. Naruto was in his room, and I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking strong black coffee and rereading Flirting Tactics. Again. Goosebumps ran across my skin. The air in the house was tense with demonic chakra. Streams of wind swept down the stairs from the second floor. The coffee cup fell from my hands and shattered with a clang, forming a seal and transporting me to Naruto's room. His eyes glowed red, and the ripples in them drew my gaze. Naruto, what's wrong? Calm down, I'm here. I tried to reassure him. The nine-tailed fox mustn't escape. I was really worried about my little brother. I'd gotten so used to him over the years. Life wouldn't be the same without him. Where are you? I want to find you so badly, Naruto said, falling to his knees. Tears streamed from his eyes, and my heart bled. Another flash of lightning, and for just a second, I seemed to see the girl's silhouette. She looked sadly at the sensei's air. Naruto, be quiet. Okay, you'll definitely find her. I'll help you. Now go to sleep. I spoke to him quietly, but I didn't know if he heard me. People think he's strange. They despise and hate him for holding back the fox. No, he's not a demon. He's just my stupid little brother. There's nothing strange about his actions. He just sees things we can't. Hatake Kakashi is finished. Naruto, I'll help you make your dream come true. The white-haired Jounin sat next to his protege. In his hands was a small pencil drawing of the girl he'd seen recently. So Hyuga, the shinobi's voice broke the silence. Kakashi looked thoughtfully out the window, and relief flickered in his small, blonde, slightly open eyes. The rain didn't stop until early morning. Kakashi was in the kitchen. His team had its first mission today. Naruto was still asleep. A cat meowed piteously under the window. Hatake was busy with breakfast. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, time to wake the fox. A commotion was heard from the second floor. It seemed there was no need to wake anyone else. A quick thud of footsteps came up the stairs, and Naruto burst into the kitchen, pulling on his t-shirt as he went. Good morning, Nisan, are we late? Uzumaki quickly sat down at the table. Everything was almost ready, and after serving breakfast to their charge, they began eating. They walked together to the village chief's residence. The road was full of puddles after the previous day's downpour. Sakura and Sai were already waiting for us there. "Hello, Sensei," Sakura said, looking at Naruto with hostility. "Hey, Sakura, Sai. So shall we go?" he replied, and Team 7 headed off to receive their first mission. The residence was bustling with activity. Mission requests were being accepted on the first floor, with people crowding in line, shouting and making noise. Shinobi were running not only across the floor, but also across the ceiling. Having received their first mission, Team 7 set out to carry it out. Traditionally, Genin fresh from the academy were required to complete numerous D-rank missions: dog walking, weeding fields, foraging for herbs outside the village. These tasks didn't exactly improve a shinobi's skills, but they were a source of income. Uzumaki Naruto begins. I overslept.